Over the past 20 years, world work developed from process-oriented psychology as it was applied in groups ranging from 3 to 1,000 people. Since I was originally a Jungian analyst and a physicist, process work, as its practitioners call it, has roots in Jungian psychology, physics, and Taoism. The Taoist view of life assumes that the way things are unfolding contains the basic elements necessary for solving human problems. Process work began with dream and body work and grew to include families and large groups. I began developing world work techniques at the end of the 1970s while working in Switzerland, South Africa, and the United States. I had been frustrated with the slow pace of small group and international change. Soon, multiracial and international learning groups formed around the ideas of process work. Other people began to facilitate groups. At first, we were retained by small European and American organizations. Then, as we gained experience, we found ourselves dealing with large, diverse, often international communities in open forums on topics of economics and racism. Today, world work training takes place in many large cities around the world. The training groups include as many as 500 people from all social classes and from up to 40 nations studying together for weeks at a time. These groups are themselves communities and provide a continuous case to study as future facilitators learn the skills and personal development needed to sit in the fire of tensions. These are often as heated as near riot or war situations. World work combines ecology's interest in the environment, psychology's focus on the individual, and social theory's comprehension of historical change. One of the most common reasons why group negotiations break down is that so many people are afraid of anger. We can't or won't deal with hidden messages and agendas that involve aggression. Then, feelings get submerged. Foremost in my mind right now is a tense conference in Compton, a low-income section of Los Angeles that is battle-scarred from conflicts between Latino and Black gangs. This is an area whose problems the media sensationalizes and where residents are afraid to walk outside after dark. Many different kinds of people came to our diversity, racism, and community meeting, which was organized by process workers in Los Angeles. The 150 participants included people in economic brackets ranging from the upper middle class to the homeless. The atmosphere in the conference room was tense. People from outside Compton were afraid of the area, and anger could be felt in the air as the conference opened. There were many heated exchanges and arguments about racism. On the second day of the meeting, a white man in his late 40s spoke gently but confidently about how much experience he had with multicultural groups and how he did not like anger. He smiled the whole time he spoke. A Black man in his 20s said quietly he thought the white man did not know what he was talking about. The white man ignored him. The Black man then stood up, faced the white speaker, and spoke vehemently about not being heard. The white man refused to talk to such an angry person. The louder the African American man became, the more the white man turned his head and whole body in another direction, repeatedly saying he was open to everyone. This argument came to a momentary resolution when a white member of our 4-person multiracial facilitating team, 2 were African American, 2 were white, pointed out that the white man's aloof behavior, his turning away, was based on his assumption that people needed to be calm to debate. A discussion arose about how this apparently trivial assumption was a mainstream expectation born of exclusivity and privilege, since calmness is possible only when the issues at hand are not troubling. Some mainstream participants did not understand. A Black facilitator explained that there was a hidden message in the white man's request for calm. Follow my prescription for behavior and don't upset me about issues which are not mine. The Black facilitators explained that hidden messages such as these marginalized non-mainstream issues. The dispute seemed resolved for the moment, and the work went on. Facilitators need to be open to anger and despair, but must also listen to those who are afraid of anger and who feel they cannot protect themselves against it. Dealing with anger, abuse, fear, and conflict is not always easy. Some consider it chaos. Others feel it is home. Facilitators require additional skills when violence threatens. Working through conflict can bring about a better peace, one that honors differences. Such work makes you believe that community change is possible. Many people are afraid to step forward and facilitate groups. There's good reason to fear groups. Their potential power is enormous. They can create in the facilitator a sense of being dominated, judged, or shamed. Fear of conflict is one of the reasons governments have shown little tolerance for dissidence, anger, and revolt. People are forced to resort to riots, civil disobedience, and revolution to be heard and to create social change. Political leaders, afraid of being attacked, unconsciously suppress violence and people who are angry. Before we can transform communities with conflict, we have to be able to survive it ourselves. A special kind of inner work is needed to transform us into elders who can sit in the fire. Without such a transformation, we will continue to repress our awareness of group tensions, thereby perpetuate the world's troubles. Today, conflict resolution schools often deal with social issues in an academic fashion and avoid working with the experience of rage. The mainstream in every country tends to skirt the anger of the oppressed classes. Politics and psychology pressure outsiders to assimilate and integrate. Western thought is biased towards peace and harmony. That's why many non-mainstream groups consider the very idea of conflict resolution a mainstream fabrication. Ironically, procedures that implicitly or explicitly forbid anger ultimately provoke conflict because they favor people who are privileged enough to live in areas where social struggles can be avoided. Meanwhile, people who exist on the periphery or the lowest rung on the social scale are treated by society as untouchable. Their needs are further repressed by the assumption that they should be even-tempered. We must be conscious of the mainstream bias in dispute resolution systems that side with government policies or ignore the emotional aspects of disenfranchisement. On the other hand, those of us who want to facilitate should not fall into one-sided support of minority positions either. That makes the majority feel marginalized by community process. The facilitator's task is not to do away with the use of rank and power, but to notice them and make their dynamics explicit for the whole group to see.